Okay, we might go straight into some breathing meditation, which we've done a few times, so you're kind of familiar with it. So sitting with what we call the 7-point posture, and which is what I have described on previous nights, but I didn't actually refer to it as a 7-point posture. But sometimes, the Lama might say, we're going to do the 7-point posture, and they'll generally talk you through it as well. But it's basically about being comfortable, and mostly it's important to have your spine straight so that the energy can travel. When you're kind of slouching, you tend to, your energies kind of get blocked, and you just relax all your muscles and other parts of your body, keeping your back straight and tilting basically your left hand down and your right hand on top with the thumbs touching. That's an energy thing as well, and you form a triangle, and you sort of point the thumbs inward towards the navel, and the arms are loose, not clinging onto your body. Your head tilted slightly forward, not too far forward or you'll get dozy, and not too high or you get distracted. So just gently relax your neck, tilt the head forward. The eyes are almost closed, but not quite. Again, you'll tend to go to sleep. You've got your body muscle memory sort of telling you you're going to, if you close your eyes, it's sleep. Instinctively, you'll kind of start to fall to sleep. So you leave your eyes open just a little bit, staring downwards. The tongue at the top of the palate behind the teeth, and the lips just slightly parted so that you're relaxed. And just bring your mind inward, letting go of the day, letting go of your thoughts. It's almost a physical feeling. You just bring your mind inward, focusing inward. And we'll have a positive motivation for doing the meditation, thinking I'm going to meditate in order to generate in my mind more positive energy and decrease the negative energy for the benefit of myself and everyone else. And now focus your mind on your breathing. Just following the breath in. You can do this either by focusing on the openings at the nostril, the sensation at the nostril where you can feel the breath, and feeling the outward movement of the breath. Or just really mentally following the breath in and following the breath out. And bringing your mind back to this inhalation and exhalation. Every time it wanders away, just bringing it back. And it's helpful to maybe count your breaths. So if you lose count, you come back to one round of the inflow and the outflow is one breath. Maybe counting rounds of 5 breaths, 5 to 10 breaths, and then coming back to starting at 1 again. And if you lose count, then just start again, bringing the mind back every time it wanders. So as soon as you realise that your thoughts have wandered, just bring them back, breathing normally and gently. And you can learn to have a neutral attitude towards your thoughts, being neither attracted or repulsed. In other words, don't react with dislike or worry or excitement or clinging or any thought or image of feeling that arises. Merely notice the existence and return your attention to the breath. And be patient with yourself. Just keep mindfulness and just keep coming back. And eventually your thoughts will subside. It can be helpful to think of your mind as the sky, and the thoughts are like clouds. Clouds come and go in the sky. They don't stay long, nor do they alter the natural stillness and spaciousness of the sky. In the same way, thoughts come and go in the clear space of your mind. They are transient and momentary. Simply notice them and let them go, bringing your attention again and again back to the breath. Now we might do a bit of the 9 round breathing. So just Still focusing on the breath. Breathing in through the right nostril and out through the left. And do this as a mental activity. Not that you can actually do it, but you can follow the breath in through the right nostril and out through the left. 3 times. And then switch sides and then breathe in through the left nostril and out through the right 3 times. And then breathe in through both nostrils and out 3 times. This can bring even more focus. And then when you've done the 9 rounds, then just focus on, keep the mind on with mindfulness on the breath. And just bring your mind back to the room. We did that for quite a long time tonight, but sometimes we've sat with Geshe Doga and he would just do the breathing meditation, and you can sit there for a good 15 minutes in his teaching. And the Tibetan word for meditation is gom, and it means familiarity. So it's like anything, you need to practice, and it becomes easier over time, a bit better over time, and that you sort of realise that you just can create a bit of spaciousness in your mind that isn't your normal kind of state of being, and it's very relaxing, and also can be quite powerful. Like I said, a friend of mine who she was coming here long before me, and basically all she did was the breathing meditation. She wasn't really interested in a lot of the other practices, and just did breathing meditation for 40 years. And from some of the things that she'd said, I mean, she didn't really talk about it, but I think that she had some very nice experiences with it, and she kept doing it. If you're not enjoying it, you wouldn't keep doing it. But it can be quite powerful, the way it just, sometimes you might reach a point where you've just cleared everything and you're kind of locked in. And and then that leaves you with how to describe it? It just leaves you with a very positive state of mind. It kind of makes you feel really happy, really good. Okay, well tonight I'm going to, we'll do the 4th of the Four Noble Truths. So we've been doing the Four Noble Truths, the truths of, which were the 4 things that the Buddha discovered when he sat under the Bodhi tree. And these were 4 sort of very profound thoughts that he had, and basically all of the teachings, all of the Dharma comes from these 4 noble truths, and they're called noble because they're the noble beings, or the Arya beings, are the beings that have actually understood, had a deep realisation of the meaning of reality, and they've come to understand the truth of these 4 truths as well. And so it's about, not that it's noble and high and whatever, but they, and they are seen as very holy thoughts, but that the profundity of them is why they're called noble. So the first noble truth being the truth of suffering, and understanding that existence is suffering in one form or another. There's the 3 types of suffering: the suffering of suffering, which is ordinary sort of mental and physical pain that we can label as suffering; and the suffering of change, which is what we normally will see something as pleasant, but or enjoyable, but in fact it's not going to last, and then it becomes the suffering of change. When things change, and then we can sort of get addicted to things because we want to do it again and again, and then that causes more suffering. And then all pervasive suffering. So it's just by nature of being a sentient being who is not understanding that we cause our own suffering, and that the nature of existence is suffering, until we kind of start to sort of look at it very closely and understand what we're doing, and then we can change it. But until that point, just the mere fact of being born with a body that's going to disintegrate and die on us is the nature of suffering. So they call that all pervasive suffering. And because we take our mind in the wrong direction trying to get happiness, we end up just causing more suffering from ourselves. So our mental and physical aggregates are a cause for this all-pervasive suffering. So then we look at the causes of the suffering. So why do we suffer? Because of karma and delusions. So from our previous habits of mind, of anger, attachment, jealousy, pride, all of these things that are going on in our mind all of the time are causing us pain, rather than, we have attachment to things that we think are pleasant and are going to make us happy, but the attachment makes us grasp at things that we know intellectually are not going to last, that are going to disintegrate or die or go wrong, or you go and get drunk because you're attached to drinking, or you like alcohol, and because you think it's going to make you happy, you think you're going to have some fun, and you might have some fun, but then you suffer for it later. Or when you're young you don't suffer for it so much, but when you're older you do. But you will go back for that experience again, and then you form an addiction to either alcohol or drugs or people or whatever it is you're addicted to. You keep returning to that experience looking for happiness. So it's our attachment is kind of fundamental to all of it. It's this sort of, what's another word for it? I can't think of the word. There's another kind of good word. But when we don't get what we want, we get angry. So then it's because of sort of our greed and attachment and desire for things that we actually get angry as well. And the thing that we desire, even when we get it, might, it'll change, and it's not making us happy, it's making us the exact opposite. And then, you push away the things you don't want, and you try and grasp hold of the things you do want. And this is our endless kind of state of mind and activity. So we look at, these are the causes. So you start to sort of be more aware of what you're doing and thinking about it. And then the truth of cessation. So all of this sort of carry on about suffering and the causes of suffering and all of our terrible, bad behaviour, our karma and our delusions. And we create, with all of this attachment and anger, attachment and aversion and everything else, pride, jealousy, all of these habits that we have in our mind, they are habits, they create more of the same. So the more you do it, the more you'll be inclined to do it, and it'll be very easy and instinctive for us all to kind of behave in these ways. So we sort of realise, okay, these are the causes of my suffering. If there's a cause, then there must be a way to not create that cause, to stop it. So we start practices of loving kindness, and we do meditation, and we watch our mind, and we check on ourselves, and that starts to sort of create a bit more calmness in us, that we're actually, you might take a step back rather than taking the bait, or, you might sort of think twice about buying that block of chocolate, or, is it really going to make me happy, or am I going to eat it and then feel really miserable because I've eaten too much chocolate? So you start to sort of watch your mind and think about it. And then the truth of cessation is that you can actually cut the root of all of this suffering. And the reason that we are attached, and we have attachment and aversion and pride and jealousy and whatever else we're doing wrong, the reason we do that is because we don't actually understand what we're looking at. We don't understand the nature of things, and that they will always change, disintegrate, and in fact they don't exist the way we think they do. And that another thing that we do in the process is we exaggerate the qualities of the things. And I think the Dalai Lama's talked about it quite a lot. He does these mind science things, and they have scientifically sort of proven that most of what we experience is 95% projection. So, and we've sort of referred to this before as well, that two people can look at the same thing and one person will like it and the other person won't. So where's that coming from? Is it the object? Is the object at the same time is a beautiful red table, or is it I wouldn't have that in my house kind of thing? What is it? Is it the object, or is it something coming from the person's mind that's perceiving it and exaggerating it, saying, I love glossy red, and then I like it more. And so, and I put layers and layers of reasons why I like this thing, and then you make up a story in your mind that makes it even more fabulous. And the same when we're angry with someone or something, we paint them very black, and we have that expression, you paint them black, and you can think of 100 reasons why that person is terrible, and they did this and they did this and they did this, and how could you like them? How can you possibly like them? And then, they have people in their lives that love them and see them as really nice, and they get along with them really well and see them as a completely lovely person. And for some reason I'm seeing them as completely evil. So, it's my mind creating this. And that there are antidotes to these behaviours as well. And I'm thinking the one with anger and seeing someone as really awful, when you kind of meditate on the causes why that person is behaving as badly, it's not to say they're not behaving badly, but why are they behaving badly? And like I've said, I work with disengaged youth. So when you hear a story of, let me think, someone that's been abandoned, they've been abused, both parents have died, they're living in a residential situation with other damaged children, which, is never ideal, and they come to school angry and give you grief. and now I just want you out of my classroom. So they're getting more grief from me as the teacher. And then when you hear their story, you actually develop some compassion. And we spend a lot of time talking about the students and what's going on with them so that we can understand what we're working with. And with young people, it's very easy to develop compassion. Not always, but it's quite easy. You can be just really kind to them, and there'll be limits to what you can sort of tolerate in the classroom. But then we have places, we've got a lot of wellbeing people, there are places, other rooms, other places they can go and sit and talk to someone or something. But I do find that kindness works, and most of the teachers in my school, we're all really sort of trained up to work with trauma, and so that I think everyone in the school is kind to these children, and they generally respond really well. So there are ways of dealing with these situations. But all of these antidotes are just that. They're kind of antidotes and band-aids. And until we understand the real nature of reality, we'll continue to kind of be driven by our deluded views because we don't see things as they really are. And when you actually really understand the nature of things, you stop your grasping. You don't see the purpose in attachment. There's no need for anger. There's just this sort of complete understanding that other beings are suffering. They don't understand at the level that you understand, and you just have compassion. And you're sort of full of all of these positive feelings of love and compassion for beings, rather than having just attachment and aversion to them. You actually develop deep love and compassion, which is a much nicer feeling. So the truth of cessation is actually having that sort of direct realisation of the nature of reality. And we talked a lot about that last week. So that, and that basically all of the teachings are trying to help us to meditate, listen, contemplate, think about it, do some more meditation, listen some more, read about it, and just to try and get your head around this notion of the lack of inherent existence. And it's just that, the lack of inherent existence. And somebody asked me last week, is the carpet empty because it's impermanent? And I said yes, because that's a very good way of looking at it. Does the carpet not exist because it's impermanent? And I said yes, because it is a good way of looking at it. It is impermanent. It's just made up of a lot of threads and dye, and it was made by people, and it was brought in here in pieces, and it was hammered down, and we call it carpet. The carpet does exist, but not in and of itself. There were causes, there were conditions, there are parts to it, and then we put the word carpet onto it, when we put all of that together. And that's a fundamental way of looking at things. If you look at something, you ask yourself about the causes, the conditions, the parts. If you look at a tree, it doesn't exist inherently in and of itself. It's got roots under the ground that are feeding on nutrients. There are critters, there are microorganisms. There's all sorts of things going under the ground that's keeping, that tree growing. It grew from a seed that came from another tree, that came from another tree, that came from another tree. There's no point where that tree began, and there's no point where it'll actually end. The rain and the sun, it needed rain, it needed sunshine, it needed all the right conditions to come together for the seed to sprout, to grow into the tree. So there's no point where that tree began, because all of the conditions and causes and stuff were all kind of coming together. And it's like you can't create matter. Nothing is actually destroyed. When you smash or crush something, it's never destroyed. The matter goes on and becomes something else. Matter can't be created out of nothing, but it never goes anywhere. So in some of the scriptures they say, they have really poetic ways of sort of saying it. It never began and it never ends. So when we say there is no carpet, there's no inherently existing carpet. There's a word, there's a label that we put onto all this stuff when we call it carpet, because it functions as what we all understand the word carpet to mean. So that's, making reference back to the truth of cessation. So the more you think about these things, and then you need to meditate on them. It's not enough to... you can study this stuff at university, and I don't think you'll have realisations. I don't think you'll understand it very deeply. You might be able to spout the words and talk about it intellectually, but you won't understand it profoundly in your mind. It probably won't cause much of a shift in your mind about your perception, but you'll have an intellectual understanding. And Geshe Doga's always going on about that. It's like, you can study and study and study and think you're really clever, but you're not actually taking it in. You're not really understanding what you're studying. So you need to meditate and have a deep feeling about this stuff. The fourth, I'll now move into talking about the fourth, and I've always kind of wondered this, and it's just come to me. So doing these, it's very helpful for me to be talking about this, because I kind of, I've got to get it straight in my head before I talk about it, and I've got to sort of think about it. The fourth noble truth is the truth of the path. And I'm thinking, why would you treat the truth of the path after the truth of cessation? You've just taught, cessation is the answer. Understanding the lack of inherent existence is the answer, or what we refer to the emptiness of everything. And then you do the path, but you need to understand that you need to understand suffering and the causes of suffering, and that there will be an end to suffering. And now it tells you about how you can actually go about working with all that information in the fourth noble truth. So the fourth noble truth is the truth of the path, and they often refer to the eightfold path. And it's very interesting, because in this large book by Geshe Loden that I've been referring to in the other weeks, he doesn't talk about it. There's no, in the index, you can't find the eightfold path. And I was like, oh my God. So he talks, in the fourth noble truth, he talks about, they have 8 of this and 6 of that and 3 of this and whatever. There are lists when you're studying this. And he refers to, it's like a threefold path. It's ethical behaviour, concentration and wisdom is the 3. If Ingrid was here, she could tell me. It's that might come to me. But very often when they're talking about the Four Noble Truths, they talk about the Eightfold Path. And the Eightfold Path is, and it's embodied in ethical behaviour, ethics, concentration and wisdom. The Eightfold Path fit in with those 3. So the Eightfold Path is, the first one is, and they refer to them as right this and right that. So right understanding. Then you have right thought, I'll count them, right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness and right concentration. So the right understanding, and when they use the word right, I've sort of been reading a little bit about this. It's not a very good translation of a Sanskrit word, and I'm not sure there's a direct translation, and other people talk about wise rather than right. So wise understanding, wise thought, wise or perfect understanding, perfect thought. So it's, yeah, when they say right, it sounds very like, you know, this is right, and it sounds a bit sort of strict or something. But so right understanding is this understanding of the nature of reality, the understanding of the wisdom that understands the lack of inherent existence. And that I'll leave it at that. It's wisdom. So this understanding of the nature of things. But it's also having an understanding of suffering and the causes of suffering. We come to the world with this understanding now. So with that understanding, and sometimes when they're describing the Eightfold Path, it's circular. They don't have it as a kind of list that goes down. I've seen talking about it in a circular way. So you have, with this understanding, you develop right thinking, right thoughts. So you have to start watching your thoughts. And I've heard many times over the years, lamas saying, if anyone could hear our thoughts, they'd think we were crazy. Like, you're a complete lunatic if they could read my mind during the day. So we have to watch our thoughts. And it's saying now that we have this understanding of what's causing us suffering, it's driven by our thoughts. Our thoughts drive our actions. So we have to watch our thoughts. And right thoughts are, not hating that person, not getting angry at that person, not having desirous attachment, analysing it, saying, well, where is that? Where's it coming from? Where does it exist? In fact, if you actually look at the feelings, you say, okay, where is my anger? Look at the anger. Where is it? And the anger's here, and the thing about anger is it's only hurting me. That person might have behaved really badly, but it's eating me and it's causing me harm. So when you look into it, the other thing that happens is when you actually analyse something, it starts to kind of disappear. It starts to kind of relax and dissipate because you can't actually find it. It's just a thought. So again, it's just in our minds. So you look into your mind, where exactly does the anger exist? And again, the anger is empty as well. There's an external object, and we talked about this last week. You see this external object and immediately you have a pleasant or an unpleasant feeling. So if it's someone that makes you angry, you see them, and that image that you've created in your mind, because you've gone through that your sight, your eye sense organs have created an image. It sent a message to your brain that's created an image. So what we're actually seeing is kind of images in our mind that are a reflection of the external world. So it gets to, there are levels of working with this. But you see that image, you see that person, and it creates a feeling of pleasantness, unpleasantness, or neutral. You've got no feelings. Then that's not so bad, You can have neutral, pleasant, unpleasant feelings, but it's what you do next is what's causing the problem. You then develop attachment or aversion, and then you act on that, whether it's mentally or verbally or physically. You will act on the sensations that image in your mind is creating, and the exaggeration that you then start the process of exaggeration and telling yourself the story about them. So that's what we're doing with our thoughts all the time. So it's saying just watch and be careful. And try and stop yourself. Try and say, just don't do that, you know. And it can actually help. Just by catching yourself can actually lessen the intensity of what's going on. Not to say, you know, it'll go away, but you can actually, when you catch yourself sometimes, you can just stop. So that's right thought. So then you have right speech. And they talk about speech in lots of different ways. So right speech is you're not doing wrong speech. You're trying not to... gossip is one of the ones they list as wrong speech. We can get caught up, I was saying last week, you know, someone at work, and we can all go, oh yeah, they did this, and, you know, and you can all start gossiping, and you feel better for a moment because you're all on board together, and you're being really unpleasant about this person that's been terrible. And you don't come away from those conversations really feeling very good. And for me, you know, I know better, and I shouldn't, you know, and I feel really bad about it, and I know it's not healthy. And when I catch myself and I don't do it, I feel much better for it. It's not a good road to go, but it's something we all do, and we kind of do it all the time. There's harsh speech. It's like abusing someone. You know, you don't say rude things or mean things. Harsh speech. What else is there with speech? I think there's 3 things with speech. Anyway, so it's not all just about not doing bad speech. It's about also being doing positive. Lying. Thank you. She told me, she's so funny, she told me she sits out there because she's always putting her hand up and asking questions, and I really needed her then. Lying. Huge one. Wrong speech. Lying. People just seem to think it's okay. I'm really shocked. Like, people just, you know, no one will know. And then you've got the habit of lying. And so in a really dire situation, you're just going to lie. It's just, I'm just so shocked. There was something recently, I bought something and left it out in the sun, and it kind of warped. The veneer separated off and my friend's daughter said to me, I said, you know, I'm going to take it back to the shop and talk to them about it and see if they can fix it. And she said, don't tell them you left it out in the sun. And I said, no, I can't do it. She said, just lie, don't tell them. And I was like, and I kind of had to do this goody two-shoes thing, you know. Like I said, I can't lie. I can't do it. For me, actually, not lying is sort of easy. It's like, I just don't do it. I'm sure I probably do. And sometimes you fudge it a little bit, or sometimes you might say something that's not quite right, and that's kind of lying. It's borderline lying. So yes, sometimes I fudge it and stuff like that. But outright lying, I just, you know, it's the one thing that I think that I'm kind of okay with, but a lot of people aren't, and it's really shocking how, you know, I have situations at work, and like with the staff, they just say things. It's just, whether it's to promote themselves or to bring someone else down, it's actually really dreadful behaviour. The kids lie a lot. You know, I'm standing there on yard duty, someone throws something, and I say, what are you doing? You know, you can't be doing that. They're throwing over the fence into the school. We border on another school, unfortunately, and there's a lot of abuse and bad behaviour going on, and you go, you know, what did you do that for? You know, why? We've told you. And he goes, what? And I said, I'm standing right here. I watched you do it. No, I didn't. And they, you know, it's wild. And, you know, that happens all the time. And they have learnt that if you lie and you stand your ground, there's nothing the teacher can do about it, or nothing that, but when I witness, you know, if you witness something, sorry mate, you're gone. But they really believe that if they just stand their ground and lie, it'll all be sweet. And don't realise that they're actually developing this really terrible habit that's going to cause nobody to trust them. And I think I must have been a bad liar in a previous life or something, because one of the karmic consequences of lying is that you won't be heard. You know, when you're in a meeting and you say something and nobody really hears you, and then the next person says the same thing and they all go, oh, that was really good. Yeah, it's good. That's the consequence of lying. You're not heard. And I think I must have been a really bad liar at some point, because somehow I don't seem to have, you know, it happens to, I think we've all been there with that. So yeah, that's speech. But also with speech, what you need to do is start creating positive speech. So when you're saying something, being very careful to be aware of your motivation, and don't say things that are hurtful, even though you know it, and also not saying, when talking about lying, it's not saying brutal truths. Like, you know, when it's inappropriate to say something truthful to someone, you don't need to say it. You don't have to just because it's the truth. You can be careful about what you say. And the test for that is it going to hurt? Is there going to be harm caused by my speech? You might be telling the truth, but in that moment, is this the right time to say that? So you have to be careful of that as well. And you're trying to tell the truth all the time, and at the same time not be hurtful. You need your speech to be not harmful. So there's a line there that we have to be careful of. So we're being wise with our speech, and not just being, it's not just about saying bad things and lying and stuff. It's also about being very careful about what we do say, that we don't feel is, it's just to not be hurtful. Right speech, right action. So that follows on. It's the same thing with your actions. Whatever you do, stealing is an action. What are the things with stealing? I think she might help me. Stealing. Stealing of time. Yeah, any kind of stealing. And what else do we do? I've forgotten that lady's name out there. I need to call her in. Yes, what does that mean? What do you mean by stealing time? Wasting time. Yeah. Yeah, oh yes, you might sort of hold someone up and you know that you're doing it willfully. You can, yeah. So actions of body. Oh, my memory is terrible. So yes, please. Killing, stealing. Sexual misconduct, yes. Yeah, stealing, killing, stealing, and sexual misconduct are the three that we can think of. So no killing. And that would involve not killing tiny, as much as you can avoid it, not killing insects, because they don't like it either. You can see little things run away from you. They are sentient. They do feel fear and pain. And we sort of, we're so habituated to not thinking of them as sentient or that they're annoying. And, that a mosquito just, he's just trying to have a feed. He's just, he doesn't know that he's being annoying or hurting you. He's just trying to eat. So, put on repellent so that you can avoid that. I've had this conversation with friends saying, yeah, but they bite me. And so I was saying, put on some repellent. And you can kind of flick them off. And Ants, you know, stepping on things on the pavement, stepping over them. And I think what that's doing is, it's a habit of mind. If you're mindlessly or uncaringly killing insects, that's creating an uncaringness in your mind. We just don't care because we don't think that it matters. But they are sentient and they do feel fear and pain. They do. You see it. So you just have to be, as much as you can, be really careful with that. And it has a very positive impact on your mind. It actually helps you it's positive for your mind. So it's working on your mind and creating these positive habits. Killing, stealing, yeah. Stealing what's not yours. I mean, that's obvious. Sexual misconduct, they can be sort of seen in different ways. One is adultery. Not stealing someone else's partner is sexual misconduct. I think there are other... Oh, it's just reading about it this afternoon, sorry. But just not doing anything inappropriate, or just wrong time, wrong place, all that sort of thing. Just being really mindful and about and respectful and all of that sort of thing. But I think that they often refer to stealing someone else's partner as sexual misconduct. So that seems to be a bit of a thing, that people sort of might have affairs, or, you know, can't sort of feel justified, and it's really can be very difficult. But if people are getting hurt, I suppose the whole thing again is about not causing any harm. And also, because it involves desire and desirous attachment, we have to be really careful with our minds when we're involved with other people, that it's not kind of overwhelmingness. And it's very disturbing. It can be very disturbing. Relationships are very disturbing things. So just the whole thing of it, of just being mindful of what's going on. So that's wise actions. And then you have, what did I say comes after that? Livelihood. Right, livelihood. I better get a move on. I've got a nice meditation on love at the end here, so I'll go through the rest of it quickly. Right, livelihood is about being really ethical in how you maintain yourself, how you pay for everything, how you earn your living. And that's very, you know, it can be tricky in some professions, like fishermen. I think that's a really difficult one. And a butcher, and working in abattoirs and stuff like that could be really, really tricky. It's interesting because they say there's not so much karma from eating meat that someone else has killed, but the butcher gets the karma for killing. So it's an interesting one to think about. But then when I know when lamas, when you know you ask these questions, there's willful killing growing vegetables, so you can't avoid killing to get your food. There's with chemicals or just digging in the ground. You are actually, there is a lot of killing going on for vegetables as well. So, and there's one way of looking at it is like a cow, that's one being, has created a lot of meat. There's a lot of food there for a lot of people from that one being dying. So there's, you know, different perspectives on how to kind of think about food. But you know, the person, whoever killed the animal for you to eat, gets the karma of killing. So when you're eating you can be very mindful of what's happened to bring you that food. Again, it's the emptiness of the food that you're eating. There were causes and conditions that came together to grow that animal or vegetable. There is a lot of causes and conditions that came together for it to end up on your plate, to sustain you. So you can be very thankful to all the beings that were involved in bringing you this meal, and for the animal that died. And you can sort of, spare a thought, prayer for the person that killed it, and that sort of thing. So it helps you to be very mindful of what you're eating as well. And there are prayers that there are sort of offering prayers that you can say when you eat food. The other thing about your livelihood is you might have, I heard a really nice explanation, you might have a really boring job, or you might have things that you really hate about your job, and that if you can actually work on your mindfulness and your ability to focus and meditate, you can be mindful. And a whole big thing about mindfulness is being in the moment, is bringing yourself to this moment, so that anything that you're doing becomes a practice. You can actually use that as a form of meditation. You don't have to be in sitting meditation. You can be just in the moment and very mindful, and that's a powerful state to be in, because we're always thinking about the past and the future, and our minds are all jumping all over the place. But if you can actually focus in on your activity and be very mindful, that can become a powerful practice in itself. And effort, so wise effort. So again, that comes back to sort of joyful effort, just really, and making an effort, and sometimes it is an effort. We've all come out here tonight. That's an effort. If after a long day, you've put in the effort and effort with your practice. If you can have a daily meditation practice, it's almost important to do it daily to keep the energy. Or you just sort of lose it and you're taking 10 steps backwards every time you sit down to meditate, and you think, why isn't it working? It's because I only do it once a week. It's not really going to be that helpful. It will be helpful in the moment. Any meditation's better than no meditation, but doing a bit of a practice every day is good. Really great way to start your day in the morning. And His Holiness talks about, I think last time I was teaching we did it, but he says, get up, splash some water on your face. You can go back and sit on your bed and do some breathing. And he just says that that's a really great way to start and motivate that you want to make this day a positive day, and that you want all beings to be happy. And then you sit and do your meditation, and then you dedicate for the sake of all sentient beings. And I swear, because I wax and wane with my morning practice depending on how late I am, and the times when I sit up and really take 5-10 minutes in the morning to start my day just goes, I can't explain it, but it really helps my day. Just seems better. It just sets your mind in a positive state, so you see things more positively. That's what I'm assuming is happening. You actually just start to see things in a more positive way. So wise effort. So make the effort. It's really worth it. And the more you do it, and the more you might sort of feel that it's working, it's easier to make the effort. You'll keep it going. Right, mindfulness. Again, it's this thing of being mindful, bringing yourself back into the moment, whatever you're doing, constantly watching your mind and bringing your mind back into the here and now. Otherwise, you miss your whole life. You're worrying about stuff that happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future, and you're not present. So you've kind of spent your whole time thinking about the past and the future, and you're not even there in the moment. So really being mindful in the moment, bringing yourself, just doing, wherever you are, you can just do a moment of breathing and bring your mind in, and then focus on what you're doing. See what you're doing. Whatever you're doing, focus in on that, and then let the thoughts go. Just stay focused, and everything works better then. You'll actually be better at whatever you're doing because you're focused and your mind's not over here while you're meant to be doing this. And all of this comes to concentration. And so when you have all of these practices help your concentration, your ability to focus, the amount of time that you can focus. And when you're sitting in your meditation, your concentration will be better, your meditations will be better. Because all of these things that you're doing is causing your mind to settle. You're not going crazy about the attachments that you have. You're not going crazy about the things that make you angry. You're not going crazy about having pride and thinking, I have to be better than everyone else. Watch yourself when you're doing these things. They're very distracting and disturbing and cause you to, and jealousy, you watch yourself, catch yourself doing it, and you can actually dissipate those feelings and you're free of them. This is the whole point. We're trying to, we're not saying, don't have a life and don't enjoy yourself. What we're saying is free yourself from these ugly stuff and you're left with a really nice space. And it is actually blissful. It feels really, really good. And when your mind is more at peace, you can focus. We know that. When we're disturbed and distracted, it's really hard to focus on anything. And sometimes you're so disturbed you can't sit and meditate. And I know that feeling too. But it's really good to actually try and still do something. But the more you meditate, the easier it gets, and the more you want to do it. And the purpose of your concentration and your meditation, the ability to control your mind, is that you can come back to right understanding. And it's the right understanding that you're applying to all of these things, all of these practices, is with this understanding of wisdom and emptiness, and trying to think about the emptiness of everything that's going on in your day, the emptiness of your thoughts, the emptiness of the other people on the train, the emptiness of the train itself. You just start to read more, think more about it, and start to remind yourself to think about these things. And then when you actually sit down and do your meditations, a lot of the meditations actually bring emptiness into the meditation. Some of the more, other meditations that you do sort of incorporate a meditation on emptiness. But you can just sit and sort of think about the causes and conditions and parts and how it's just a label. They're the things you think about: causes, conditions, parts and labels. When you're describing how something exists, it exists through causes, conditions, parts and a label. And that's a question that Geshe will ask sometimes, and we all go, I can't remember. But so all of your practices is to clear your mind so that you can focus on the nature of reality. And it's, that's the end goal, but along the way you get a lot of benefits. It just feels really great to meditate, and you get the benefits of that. And that's the Fourth Noble Truth. And do you want to do this meditation? It's time, but I have a very nice meditation we can finish with. Anyone can leave that needs to leave. Now I've lost it. There it is. So when we think about looking at our feelings of attraction, aversion and indifference, as long as we continue to discriminate between those we like and those we dislike and those we do not care about, we can never take the first step. So this is about seeing all beings as equal in their desire to be happy, and we need to be able to see everyone equally, even the people that we have problems with. They are totally equal with all of us in just wanting to be happy. And that's a positive desire, the desire to become enlightened. When we talk about happiness in Buddhism, we're talking about positive things like love and compassion are the causes of happiness. So we need to be able to work with all beings. And when we talk about we want to do this because we want to free others from suffering. Yes?
I was wondering about how do you view people like Ted Bundy, for example, who cause a lot of harm?
Donald Trump. Yeah. Vladimir Putin. They often, when a lot of this was written, it was sort of, they'd talk about Hitler. Sometimes when the Tibetans sort of came to the West and people sort of told them about Hitler, they would say, oh, there's a perfect example of how this sort of works. And this meditation kind of addresses that. Ted Bundy, Donald Trump, hard to even say his name, and this is the thing with people you really dislike, it's actually hard to even say their name, only want happiness for themselves. They want to be happy. Everything they do in their world, in their life, is trying to make themselves happy. But they are totally going in the wrong direction, causing endless amounts of harm, massive amount of damage to people, the world, and it's distressing to watch. And like Putin and what's going and all of that stuff. It comes back to thinking about reincarnation as well. That in this life they are creating so much harm, so much karma. Their minds must be an absolute cesspit, screaming mess of bitterness and hate and, wanton destruction. So they can't be, I wouldn't call that happiness. Their current state of mind is not a state of happiness, and it's feeding off itself and it's getting more and more angry and destructive as it goes along and using their power to cause more and more destruction. It's like the Dalai Lama saying that he has compassion for the Chinese and he's thankful for the Chinese for teaching him compassion, and he doesn't mean it sarcastically, he means it really, really means it, that from thinking about them, meditating on them, knowing their karma, he will weep for the Chinese because he knows what's coming for those people. Now, the linchpin of really thinking about this is reincarnation, which for us in the West is tricky, and that's a whole other meditation. But just quickly, when you think back in your life, you can go back, think back through your life, think about your childhood, think about when you were really little, think about, and you can't remember when you were born, but you know that you were born, you know that you suckled on your mother, you know that you came out of your mother's womb, you know that you were conceived, the sperm and the egg came together and that you were conceived. Did you just come from nowhere then? Did your mind... Was that it? For me, I can't think about a moment. There has to be a moment before. You're not the sperm and the egg. You're the physical. Your physical parts came from the sperm and the egg, but your mind didn't. And then when you think forward to your death, you think, sickness, lying in bed, and then they talk about the whole. There's sort of 8 stages of dying. 4 of them we acknowledge. The 4th one is when you stop breathing, and normally we would say the person is dead. But with Buddhism, there's 4 more stages of your mind. There's things that happen in your mind sort of exist here, and your mind is still residing in the central channel of your psychic sort of nervous system. I mean, a lot of different traditions talk about channel, but your mind is still there, and then your mind leaves and goes through a process of looking for a new rebirth. And they describe all of that too. There's very detailed descriptions of what happens next. But when you think, and there's meditations for this, when you meditate on your life and you get to either the beginning or the end, it doesn't make sense that your mind would just stop. It sort of makes more sense to me that there is a next moment, because every moment is caused by the previous moment. This thought is generating the next thought. So every moment generates the next moment. Every moment of your mind doesn't exist inherently. Your mind does not exist inherently. It's influenced by every single thought, every single thing that's ever happened to you. It's the sum of everything that's ever happened to you is what's happening in this moment, and then that will cause the next moment. And that's why when we see the same thing, we respond differently, because our minds are kind of driven by everything. And so that when you do these meditations, it makes more sense that there is a next moment. It doesn't make sense because nothing comes from nothing. And nothing becomes nothing. Like we're saying, everything sort of, that matter doesn't disappear when something is smashed or vaporised. You burn it. You know it hasn't disappeared because there's the particles of smoke and the ash and whatever. All the particles are still there, and it still goes up. So nothing becomes nothing. So your mind didn't just come from nowhere. Yeah, that's right. It's a constant stream. So that's a kind of a linchpin in this thinking, that this is they say that this life is like a lightning strike. This is just one in an infinite. You've had infinite lives, and infinity is the thing we can't get our head around. And we've had infinite lives of karma and delusion. And they call this a precious human rebirth, this life, because you have now met the Dharma. And it's not to say that, you have to really take all of this on, but they say that the only way out is being human, because we have the capacity to think and to do these practices and to understand the realisation of emptiness. And that's your ticket out. And then your mind continues on, but not suffering. So, does that answer your question? Does that... if we have had infinite lives, we have committed horrendous crimes at some point. We've had infinite relationships. They say that everyone has been our mother, and that's another way of meditating, that every single being has been our mother. This goes on infinitely. And so that then you start to sort of meditate, okay, at some point this person has been my mother. And that that one of the fundamental teachings is that we should see all beings as our mother. Not that, we can actually do that, but the amount of love, and not everyone has a good relationship with their mother, but that thing of motherly love, the way a mother will run into a burning building to save a child, that depth of feeling that a mother has for a baby that will do anything to protect that child, the love that they have, we should have that for every other being. We should feel that kind of love. And look, this will take us through till sort of, for another 10 minutes, but I'll get on with this. So that your question sort of follows into this meditation, so that we can meditate on these people and generate love for them, and know that we have karmic seeds in us that we have no idea are going to ripen for what, and we don't know what's going to happen in our own lives. And we know that we've done bad things in this life, so that it helps to be able to generate compassion, and knowing that very, very bad karma that these people are carrying, that it's terrifying, sort of where it will take them. So, Or just take a moment to just relax and bring your mind inwards. Just focusing on the breath for a moment. And think that you're doing this meditation for the benefit of yourself and others, and to generate a more positive, loving energy in your mind and send it out to others and to the world. So start by imagining all living beings around you. Your mother is on your left, your father is on your right, other relatives and friends are around and behind you. Visualize in front of you those you dislike or who have hurt you. And extending in every direction, right to the horizon, are all other beings. Feel that they are there, all in human form, sitting quietly like you. If it's difficult to visualize all beings, think of as many as you can comfortably. Stay relaxed and don't feel crowded or tense, but imagine that a sense of harmony and peace pervades everyone. Consider how nice it would be for yourself and others if you were able to love all these beings. Contemplate that everyone wants to be happy and to avoid suffering just as you do. They are all trying to make the best of their lives, even those who are angry and violent. Now generate a feeling of love in your heart. You can do this by thinking of someone you do love and letting your natural good feelings for this person arise. You might like to imagine your love as a warm, bright light, not physical, but pure, positive energy glowing in your heart. Before you can truly love others, you need to love yourself. Loving yourself means accepting yourself as you are, with your present faults and shortcomings, and recognising you have the potential to free yourself from all your problems. So really wish yourself all the happiness and goodness there is. Imagine that the warm energy in your heart expands until it completely fills your body and mind. If you have a habit of being critical, judgmental, or even angry towards yourself, it will take time to change this. So you probably will not suddenly feel love for yourself. But if you say to yourself, may I be happy, may I have what I need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied, and so forth, then gradually these thoughts and feelings will grow and become genuine. It's enough for now to just think this way and say these nice words to yourself. Now meditate on love for others. Start with your family and close friends sitting near you. Say in your mind the words such as, may you be happy, may you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free from problems, sickness, and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly reach enlightenment. Imagine the warm, luminous energy radiating from your body, touching them and filling their bodies and minds, bringing them the happiness they wish for. Again, don't worry if you can't actually feel love. It's enough to say these words and think these thoughts. In time, the feeling will come. Think next of some people you are not so close to. They could be people you work with, neighbours, fellow shoppers in the supermarket, fellow drivers on the road. Reflect that they, just like you, want to be happy and deserve to be happy. See if you can feel the wish for them to be happy by thinking, may you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved, and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free from problems, sickness, and sadness, and may your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly reach enlightenment. Then send them the radiant energy of love from your heart, and imagine that they experience the happiness they wished for. Lastly, turn your attention to people in front of you, those you have difficulty with. Contemplate that they also need and deserve your love. Wish them to be free of confusion, anger, self-centeredness that drive them to act the way they do. Really want them to find peace of mind, happiness, and finally enlightenment. Think and try to feel sincerely, may you be happy. May you have what you need to feel happy, safe, loved and satisfied. May all your thoughts be positive and all your experiences good. May you be free from problems, sickness and sadness. May your lives be long and peaceful, and may you quickly reach enlightenment. Imagine the radiant energy of love flows from your heart to them, and that they experience the happiness they wish for. Continue to send your positive, warm feelings out to all other people around you. Love is an unlimited spring of good energy, so you shouldn't worry that you will run out. Completely open your heart and imagine your love flowing to every direction, reaching all beings who are lonely, sick, hungry, confused, oppressed, frustrated, frightened. Their suffering disappears and their minds become peaceful, clear and full of pure happiness. Wish them to have every good experience, from the satisfaction of ordinary needs and desires all the way to enlightenment. Concentrate on this feeling of love as long as possible. Conclude the session by thinking that you definitely have the potential to love everyone, even those who annoy or hurt you and those you don't even know. Generate a strong wish to work on your own anger, impatience, selfishness and other problems that prevent you from having such love. Keeping your mind open and trying to overcome ego's prejudiced attitudes will leave much space in your heart for pure, universal love, and thus happiness for yourself and others to develop. Finally, dedicate the positive energy of your meditation to all beings and the wish that they find happiness and enlightenment. And we'll just come back to the room. And I've got just a couple of quick things to say about this, that you can think about it of wishing, when you wish them to be free of their suffering, you can wish that someone like Vladimir Putin really didn't have anger. Just wish for him to be free of that anger. And then imagine, if he could, that his heart was filled with love. So you sort of want them to be free of their own suffering, free of their anger, free of their violence and hatred. And that's another way of looking at it, sort of taking that away from them, and then that they would be better people if they didn't have those angry feelings. The other thing I wanted to say was that someone asked me last week, and this comes up all the time, that if you have a difficult person in your life, and I think it's a misinterpretation of non-attachment, that do I just become sort of non-attached and deal with it? And my thoughts on that are, especially if you're in a violent relationship or something like that, or you are in a difficult situation, or it's just not working, you can walk away. You don't have to stay and sort of grit your teeth and think, I have to do all these practices. You can do it from a distance. You can still generate love from a distance. You don't have to put yourself in harm's way to do these practices. So I just thought I'd put that out there too, because and you meet people that misinterpret this. Or someone will put it on you and say, oh, I thought you were supposedly doing meditation and Buddhism. Why aren't you being compassionate for me while I'm being a real horror? So you don't fall into that trap of thinking you have to tolerate difficult situations or abuse. You can distance yourself from it and still do these practices and still generate love and wish for that person to be free of their suffering. And when you're saying free of their suffering, you mean free of their anger, free of their misbehaviour. And when you wish them to be happy, you don't want them to be happy in their bad behaviour. You want them to generate love and compassion. You're wishing them to generate positive feelings of love and compassion and real happiness, not just to be happy in being nasty. You don't, you know. So there's a difference. So I've kept you way too late. So thank you all for coming. And next week is Alan, who's been teaching here a lot longer than me. He's really experienced and interesting and entertaining and a great teacher as well. So next week, Monday night. Yes, yep. So it continues on.